Well, Bobi Wine is a name Ugandans know well. He first made his name as a musician and entertainer. He was born in Chagulanyi, Sentamu. After more than a decade, though, as a performer, he ran for president against Yoweri Museveni in 2021. Now, that was after he was already had become a member of parliament in 2017. Well, since that run for the presidency, Bobi Wine has been placed on house arrest before while in his country. But he is in Toronto to speak at one of three stops in Canada for Uganda's National Unity Platform Canada Conventions 2024. The theme is challenges of democracy and how to overcome. And I'd like to welcome Bobi Wine to the show. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, listeners.
We're really happy to have you here. So I want you to take us back a few years. You know, as I mentioned when we were talking earlier, I first heard of you as a musician, as a performer.
That's right.
Tell me about the decision to transition, to broaden your work from music and entertainment to politics as well.
Thank you. I actually prefer identifying myself as an artist, as a musician, because it's my first love and will definitely be my last. Just like any other young man growing up, I grew up from the ghetto, of course, having had a political background in my family. My father was one of the rebels that brought in the current government. That's where my grandfather passed because he was a rebel too, and our eldest brother was a rebel too, and he had to serve close to 10 years in jail and all that. So I grew up being discouraged from the politics. I was born in the war myself in 1982. So my mother raising us post-war and having lost everything discouraged us from anything to do with politics. And I listened to her because she always taught us that hard work is only the stripes that by which we're going to lift ourselves. And we did good and I succeeded. But one time when I was about 23, 24, at the height of my musical success, riding the flashiest and newest Cadillac Escalade with 24-inch spinning wheels, and I'm feeling on top of the world. This is when I was attacked and beaten up by a security operative around my age. And my crime was showing off as if I did not know that the country had owners. Of course, that spoke volumes to me, but it was my rude wake-up call to remind me that no matter how successful or rich I might become, you know, I would not be free unless everybody is free, unless there's a rule of law where everybody is equal, where everybody has human dignity. That is what sparked my mind going. I started thinking about injustices and all that. But as time went on, I needed to move from talking or singing about those issues to acting about them. I chose the path of going for a more formal platform. That's how I ran for parliament, reach parliament, realize the realities to deal with, run for president. The rest is history.
The issues you speak of here, because that spark that got you kind of changing direction a little bit, or kind of intensifying the work that you saw that needed to be done. What were the issues that you saw that need to be changed in Uganda?
To sum it up, injustice, sickening injustice. Inequality, the corruption, the disregard to human dignity, you know. I had been seeing these things, the rampant land grabs, the immorality of those that are in power. But like I said, it wasn't affecting me. The sickening poverty wasn't affecting me. I was a successful artist. You know, the injustice did not affect me because I thought I was above the law. I was hobnobbing with the mighty and powerful until it happened to me. So it's generally the injustice.
And I wonder, when you decided, having seen these injustices, having seen some corruption and that sort of thing, having dealt with
not some corruption, sickening corruption.
When you made the decision to step into politics, how did your family react, given you said your mother told you to stay away from it?
Well, no, my mother had passed
sorry.
My mother passed on when I was 15. Luckily, because she wouldn't let me go into this. But again, this was my passion. As a man who had grown up, I thought the only way I would change things or I would contribute to changing things personally.
So it sounds like there was no choice in your mind but to do this.
I didn't like this. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it.
You still don't?
I don't at all. But somebody's got to do this.
Tell us, for those who don't know, how President Museveni reacted to your run for presidency.
Well, this is a military regime that has been in power for 38 years now. When I threw in my hat, it had been in power for about 34 years. And, this is a regime that sought to consolidate itself, had destroyed all resistance and all opposition and all hope for change, had compromised most of the intellectuals, killed and exiled others, silenced others. But now here was an artist that represented, and not to brag, but I would say Bob Marley and Mandela all wrapped in one. I was a young man of 35, coming from the ghetto and speaking truth to power. He was seeing, the biggest threat against his long-held power. And like dictators he responded with brute force. I was informed that a decision was made that I was to be killed. And indeed, on the 13th of September 2018, there was an attempt to my life. They shot at our car, unfortunately killing my driver. I narrowly survived. But even when I hid, they looked for me and beat the hell out of me that I had to be airlifted out of the country for treatment. I won't just look at myself, but I would say the crackdown continued. Thousands of our supporters were abducted. Many are still missing. Many are now discovered, but were put in a military court, even when they're not, soldiers. Used a lot of taxpayers' money to buy others. And this continues up to the present day. There are still enforced disappearances and court-martialing of civilians. But also the resistance continues because Ugandans in the country and in the diaspora have continued to come together. Never before had Ugandans outside Uganda organized themselves into resistance chapters. But now here we are in Canada alone. We were in Ottawa, Edmonton, and here, and we continue to traverse the world to, mobilize.
And that's the part I'm very curious about, because I know you've been put on house arrest more than once when in Uganda, and I know one of those times was after you had left and come back to the country. Given that, it must be hard. It must be hard work to make sure and keep families safe back home while you're gone, and think about the possibility of being apprehended again once returning. Why is it so important to physically get out of Uganda and travel around the world and do this sort of thing? To be here in Toronto, to have been in Edmonton. Why is it so important to do that part?
To keep the hope alive, to assert the stubbornness that we don't only refuse to die, but we refuse to give up, and to ensure that I keep physically reaching these our people, to galvanize them, to keep and up the fight. Yeah.
How aware do you think people outside of Uganda, people off of the continent of Africa, how aware do you think people are of what's happening inside of your country?
People are very aware, and I salute my generation, all the friends that I work with. For the first time, I can confidently say that the people of Uganda are aware of what's happening. At least we might not have achieved the ultimate goal, but at least we can say without fear of contradiction that people are no longer discussing parochial issues there, regardless of whether it's on a taxi stage. It doesn't matter whether it's in a saloon or in a ghetto somewhere or in a hangout or even on the dance hall. People are discussing current issues. So we are very glad that at least the level of consciousness has gone up. Now we are having to go to the level of action and transformation.
As you look forward to Uganda's future, what are your hopes for the country? What do you want to see happen?
I want to see a new Uganda, a free and prosperous country where all Ugandans, regardless of tribe, gender or creed, are living together with full human dignity. A country whose natural resources, enormous natural resources, are being channeled for the betterment of the lives of the people. A country that is not ruled by the military, but by civilians. A country that uplifts the rule of law and respect for human rights and human dignity. A country at peace with itself, and that is a respected country among nations.
Are you concerned for Museveni to try and hold on to leadership in any way, shape, or form?
Not just concerned. He is trying to hold on to the leadership of our country.
Through himself?
As a matter of fact, he's in advanced stages of installing his son, who he has gifted with the rank of Army General, and he has made him overall chief of the military. His wife is the head of education.
Okay.
He himself is now the governor of Bank of Uganda, and his brother runs the biggest budget in the country. His son-in-law heads the university, and his other son-in-law is de facto head of the judiciary. And he has a few stooges running public institutions and controls them like he's controlling a remote control.
So it sounds like, in your opinion, he's starting to set up a way to hold on. Will you run for president again?
The question should be, will there be a presidential election? Because there's an effort to even scrap presidential elections from Uganda. Why? Because even if he was able, through the military and the Walking Stick Electoral Commission, to rig the election, it did not leave him the same. It left the mask down. So much as he has the manpower and machinery to rig elections, he knows that it wouldn't leave him the same. Therefore, he prefers not to have the election altogether. Yeah.
You know, I have to say, I really appreciate you coming in to speak with me here and kind of spread the word about what's happening in your country and how this tour has been for you. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you. If I could part with just this, if we have a second.
We have about 30 seconds, yeah.
Sure. I'll just thank the international community and encourage them to stand with the people of Uganda, not with the oppressors, and to encourage them to keep holding Ugandan officials to the same standards with all nations. I'm even thankful that Canada has expelled Uganda's ambassador that's making a fool of herself and openly supporting oppression and violence against Ugandans. Thank you very much. The struggle continues.
Thank you for being here, sir.
Cheers.
And it's Bobi Wine in Toronto as part of the National Unity Platform Canada Conventions. He will be holding a press conference and convention today at the Toronto Airport Marriott Hotel.